The chain reaction set off by a single act can culminate in a tragic loss of life. On July 5th, 1970, 2 years before the Bluebird Cafe fire, a plane takes off from Montreal, destined for Toronto, then California, where Americans are enjoying their own holiday-long weekend. But this time, disaster will fall from the clear blue sky. Early Sunday morning, July 5th, 1970. In Montreal, Quebec, Captain Peter Hamilton glances upwards as he heads to the airport. With little wind and no clouds, it is a perfect day for flying, a passion of his that dates back 30 years to his first days in the Air Force.
Peter was always determined to go on being a pilot because he loved it so much. It was his favorite thing to do. He was actually very poetic about it, the solitude up there in the clouds. He was crazy about flying.
With experience and leadership skills, Peter is now one of Air Canada's most reliable and respected pilots.
He was a very, very outgoing personality. He was the kind of person that he would walk into a room and everybody knew that he was there. Just a very warm and outgoing and interested man, and people responded very, very strongly to him.
At the airport, Captain Hamilton meets with his cockpit crew for the day. Donald Rowland is the first officer, or FO, and second officer is H. Gordon Hill. Their assignment is Flight 621, one of Air Canada's most popular routes. The flight plan involves a short 50-minute route from Montreal to Toronto, followed by a long leg south to Los Angeles. Flight 621 has been nicknamed the Champagne Flight, filled as it often is with holiday travelers in festive mood. Adding to the sense of luxury is the brand new Super DC-8 aircraft that services the route. It is one of the largest passenger planes available and one of the first to earn the title Jumbo Jet.
Airlines wanted more seating arrangements. They wanted to be able to transport more people. This is a big airplane. They were certainly state-of-the-art airplanes, advertised as such.
As the crew enters the cockpit, they would likely agree that the new DC-8 is not only bigger and faster, but also safer than earlier models. There is, however, one issue that still causes debate, even concern among pilots. It involves the ground spoilers on the wings. When a plane touches down on the runway, the ground spoilers are deployed. Ground spoilers disrupt the flow of air over the wings, effectively pushing the plane downward and keeping it on the runway. They can be deployed manually by pulling a lever once the plane has landed, or automatically by using an arming switch. Once armed, the spoilers deploy on their own as soon as the landing gear touches the ground.
This crew had in the past worked out a system whereby when the captain was flying, the first officer would pull the spoilers manually on the ground once they landed. When the FO was flying, the captain would arm them in the flare. In other words, when just above the runway.
On this particular morning, there seems to be an ongoing debate about changing this routine. This is the first fateful move towards deadly consequences. 7 a.m. As passengers wait to board Flight 621, stewardess Hildegund Weiserek begins her workday. She is known to her friends as Gundi and has recently married a local ticket agent from Montreal.
She worked for Air Canada, and he worked for Canadian Pacific Airlines. He'd seen her off that day, and he was working at the same time that she was working, and he saw her go towards the plane.
Once aboard, Gundi greets passengers. Claude Holliday is a purchaser for Bell Canada. Although Claude is heading to California on business, his spirits are just as high as those heading south for pleasure.
I remember him telling me how he enjoyed taking those flights, like to California, and who he was going to meet when he was going down there. He basically was the kind of person that if you met him, you wouldn't forget him. just one of those type of guys, whistled his way to work every day and whistled his way home. And he loved his job.
Also boarding the plane are Linda and Luella Earle, 21-year-old twins, both studying to be nurses.
My sisters were young, very busy. They were always together. They had similar interests. They were happy, they were eager to go on vacation. We had a going away party for them the evening before. We had about 100 people, just dancing and people laughing and joking. It was a nice goodbye party.
7:17 a.m. Along with a total of 9 crew members, 100 passengers are now on board Flight 621.
You had a beautiful sunny day and blue sky. You had a brand new airplane, hadn't really even been broken in yet. You know, you had people going on vacation.
The flight takes off as scheduled and heads southwest, briefly reaching a cruising altitude of 30,000 feet before beginning a gradual descent towards its first and only stopover in Toronto. 7:59 a.m. Flight 621 is granted permission to drop to 3,000 feet and begin an approach towards Toronto's runway 32. In preparation for landing in Toronto, Gundi Wiserek goes through her cross-check routine. She insists that all chairs are in their upright position and that all passengers are firmly buckled with their seatbelts.
The only thing that I would say about my dad is that he did not like to wear seatbelts, even though you're supposed to wear them. He would just put it across his lap like he had it on, but he wouldn't have it on because he had this phobia about being buckled in.
8:02 a.m. 4 minutes to touchdown. During a final before landing check, the crew talks once more about the ground spoilers. The captain decides that the first officer will arm the ground spoilers so they deploy automatically when the plane touches the ground. The first officer agrees, even though he is in the habit of pulling the manual lever when the plane is safely on the ground.
So when they were on final at approximately 60, 80 feet above the runway, something like that, the captain gave the first officer the okay to do it, but the first officer, reverting to what he was accustomed to doing, pulled it. He extended it instead of just arming it.
With the ground spoilers deployed in the air, Flight 621 takes a dangerous plunge towards the tarmac. The captain realizes his first officer's mistake and tries to abort the landing.
Here Hamilton floored the engines and brought the nose up as high as possible.
He did everything he could have and did it quickly.
It isn't enough. Flight 621 strikes the runway briefly but hard, and engine number 4 breaks off from the wing, rupturing a fuel tank. For passengers, especially those not strapped in, it is a terrifying jolt.
It would feel like it crashed. It would make a terrible noise.
Within seconds, a glance outside tells them they are airborne once again. Captain Hamilton does a quick damage assessment. According to the instrument panel, engine number 4 is powerless, but the crew has no idea that it has been torn right off.
They didn't think that they had a real serious problem. They just thought, now they had 3 engines and we'll come back now. The tank had a 4-foot hole in it and put a lot of fuel out. So it started just bleeding fuel like crazy. And it's passing by the electrical wires, hot point, number of ignition sources that were possible.
As they